We have right now City of Miami Mayor Francis Suarez. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us right now. What's your reaction to the crowds that you've seen moving through your city this evening?
Well, my reaction is that my hope is that they continue to be peaceful as they were yesterday during the day. The fear is that what we've seen across the country and even in the city of Miami yesterday is that there's a small percentage of that group that is there purposefully to create division, to create confrontation, to vandalize, and to destroy property. And that is something that we can't accept. It's not something that is reflective of a peaceful protest to try to bring very needed attention to the issue of racism in our country and police-involved issues. So I think if things continue this way, they're great. If things unfortunately escalate, we're going to have to take action.
Well, Mayor, we're 1.5 hours away from a curfew in the city of Miami. How will you enforce that curfew?
Well, our objective is that, hopefully most of the people will go home by then. We saw a portion of them dissipate at about 6:45 yesterday. We don't know exactly how that's going to happen. We obviously want to do things as peacefully as possible. Our objective is to warn people before taking any sort of action, but we will take necessary actions to disperse the crowd and, if necessary, potentially arrest people, particularly if they're looting or damaging property.
Have there been plans with Miami police to increase patrols? We've seen a large crowd of police already at Bayside Marketplace, but after what happened last night, is there even more there? Same goes for Wynwood, because we did see some looting, at least at one store. We saw that there was some damage to a shoe store there last night. Is it stepped up patrols in those areas today and throughout the evening?
Yes, and we're monitoring the entire city with the sophisticated systems that we have, and we're able to see in real time everything that's going on. So we are definitely prepared to react, and we'll do what we need to do to keep the city safe and to keep our citizens safe and our property safe.
Mayor, I want to ask you the same question I just asked Mayor Carlos Jimenez a few moments ago. What is your feeling about a police show of force? Because we have seen, what I've been witnessing is that when there is a heavy police show of force with the riot gear and the helmets and the shields, that escalates tensions within the crowd. And when they just see the officers there, the bike officers, just police officers, it's a different feeling. What's your feeling about that?
Well, I kind of agree with you, Elliot. Yesterday what we did was we were very effective with the bicycle officers. I think that what happened yesterday and what was unfortunate was that it seemed like at about 8 o'clock, just at when it got dark, it seemed like really the crowd of protesters dissipated, and what was left was a small group of people that came prepared to do damage. And the reason why I say that is for two reasons. One is we arrested about 57 people, which is not a large amount when you consider other parts of the country like Chicago and Los Angeles and what's going on in those cities. But of those 57, only 13 were City of Miami residents. And then the second thing is I saw personally with my own eyes, and I was here at the police department all day, and I'm here now. And I actually met with the protesters yesterday and today. We saw people that had backpacks with sticks, and I don't mean sticks that they pick up off the ground, batons, sledgehammers that we saw that were used to destroy cars. So they came with a purpose, and the purpose was to destroy, deface cars, write on the cars, etc.
Mayor, right now, as we have you on the phone, I just want to let our viewers know that the chopper shot we are showing appears to be over Biscayne Boulevard. We just saw the Burger King there, which is at 1700 Biscayne Boulevard. So they're at about 17th Street and Biscayne near the Hilton Hotel. It looks like they're moving northbound at this point. We had thought that perhaps they were heading toward the police department. You say you're there now. Is that the intel you're hearing, or do you have any word specifically on where these protesters plan to end up this evening?
No, that is the intel that we have. Obviously, the protesters are free-flowing, and they are being led by different people, and we are monitoring all that. But yes, that is the intel that we have as well.
Well, right now it looks to me like they're headed toward Edgewater. Those of us who've lived in Miami a long time, we call that the Omni Hotel. It hasn't been the Omni for many years. It's the Hilton, but they've passed the Hilton and they're going into that Edgewater neighborhood. Mayor, I watched you this afternoon not only meet with some of these young people, but also give them your cell phone number so they can contact you. You know what they want. They want these incidents to come to a stop. They want the police and the black community, the African Americans who have been injured in these horrific incidents that have been caught on cell phone footage to come to an end. And I mean, I know this is not a simple question with a lot of ramifications, but what do you tell these young people when they text you or call you?
Well, I can tell you, first of all, that I've gotten a ton of text messages or calls since I did that, and I'll say my number again on the air. It's 305-992-3342, 305-992-3342. I think there's a few things. One is we first have to admit that there's a problem, and our police chief has done a magnificent job. He was one of the first police chiefs nationally to condemn the acts of the officers in Minneapolis. So did his executive staff. I think we have to call for justice, and not just the arrest of the officer who murdered George Floyd, but the other officers who did nothing and watched it happen. And I think the third thing is we have to look internally and make sure that we continue the process of evolving. As you know, Elliot, in the 1980s, we had 2 officer-involved shootings that created violence in our city. My father was mayor during one of them, and was lauded for calming our residents during those disturbances. And we've come a long way from that. When I was commissioner, we had to fire a police chief because of police practices that led to the death of 7 African Americans, by officer-involved confrontations. We've implemented a civilian investigative panel. We fully funded it. And we've made the funding independent so that we have civilian oversight and accountability in our police department. But, there's still a long way to go. And I think when you continue to see incidents like this, it reminds you that there's still more work to be done.
Mayor, earlier this afternoon, you talked about that press conference you did with the police chief, with fellow commissioners there as well. But also, Miami Heat star Udonis Haslem was there, and he said that no one invited him. He just felt that he needed to go. He asked one of the commissioners, "Hey, should I show up?" He said that he was frustrated and that he didn't really know what to do, but that he wanted to be part of the solution. Is there an open invitation on your part to work with him? Perhaps he could be a voice for the community to get the message out there?
Absolutely, and we've been working with him on issues related to housing and poverty in our city, and so he is one of those rare examples of athletes that, first of all, come from our community, and second of all, stay in our community and want to leave a lasting legacy that goes beyond their athletic career. And the reason why we wanted him there was because we know that a lot of this is happening in the millennial generation, and we want people that have the ability to communicate and connect with that generation to make sure that we're communicating the right messages and that we're listening. I think something that my manager said that I thought was very good in a meeting that we had with the pastors is we're here to listen. I think before you can make changes, you have to reflect and you have to listen and you have to be thoughtful about it. And so that's what we're going to continue to do, and we're going to make whatever changes we have to make to hopefully continue to move the ball in the right direction.
Okay, Mayor Francis Suarez, we're not going to take up any more of your time, but thank you very much for joining us on the phone tonight. Of course, we'll continue monitoring this as you will.
Thank you, Elliot.